I'm Dave Kling, and if you haven't already connected with a real estate advisor, I highly suggest that we get connected here either tonight or sometime this week, just so we can review your investment goals and see how we can help you achieve your 2016 real estate investing goals. What else we bring to the table here is we have hand-picked investment properties from all over the country. Tonight we specifically have 5 properties in the Houston market that our team in Houston has gone out and found for us, and these have been selected for you guys tonight to get a first look at them. We also have access to all of our resource teams and property managers, accountants, CPAs, insurance agents, mortgage lenders, attorneys, and much, much more. So you're going to get an inside scoop on our Houston, Texas team tonight, and you'll get to be introduced to them. So how do we offer all of these services for free, you might ask? We're a traditional real estate brokerage. We help investors like yourselves purchase investment property, and we make money through the sale of real estate like a traditional brokerage would when you use our buyer's agent in that market. Keep in mind all the commissions are paid out by the seller. So for you, completely free to use us, and it's an excellent business model. That's why all of our investors seem to like it so much. So as I mentioned, my name is Dave Kling. As you can see here, a little bio about myself. I'm a licensed realtor here in Orange County. So if for all of our Orange County buyers or Southern California buyers, I'd be happy to help you with a purchase of your primary residence or any investment properties out here as well. I graduated from Arizona State University, did a little bit of starting my own business while I was in college, part of the entrepreneurship program there, and love working with my investors and helping you guys out with some great investment opportunities. So tonight, the market that we're going to be talking about is the Houston, Texas market. Like I said, the fastest growing city in America. Very excited, and we have an awesome presentation for you guys tonight. And so a little bit how we choose where we invest. There's many factors into what we look for and really what makes a solid investment market for us. Some of the things that we look at, number one is the job market. We want to make sure that we're in an area where it's job friendly, that the job growth is doing well, and that we have a low unemployment rate. We look at vacancy rate. We want to make sure that the area has a large population, that our vacancy time is low, which will help increase our returns. We look at economic diversity. We want to make sure that there's multiple industries within that market to make sure that we're not spreading ourselves too thin. We want to make sure that we spread out that risk if there's an industry to go under, that the entire area won't go under. We look at housing affordability, making sure that the purchase price to rent ratios make sense and that we're able to get a break-even or positive cash flow in the market. We look for landlord friendliness, making sure that the laws are in favor for you guys as landlord and investors, so that the laws will be in favor for you no matter what you're doing. If you're probably the worst thing that could happen when purchasing a property is having to go through an eviction. We want to make sure that if that's the worst thing that happens, you are in the right position in a landlord-friendly market where the process is quick and easy. And Houston, Texas is definitely one of those markets. Strong education. We look for areas with good school districts that keep the property values high and strong, and we look for areas with good colleges that bring in new employers to the area. And then probably most important and one of the huge benefits that we bring is reliable property management. We have an awesome property management team in the Houston market that we work with, and we'll get into that a little bit later tonight. But without any further ado, I'd like to introduce you guys to our Houston, Texas rep, Richard Seller, who's going to be on the call tonight. Richard's been with us for quite some time now. He's an investor himself out in the Houston area, so not only does he walk the walk, but he talks the talk. And he's been out to here in Southern California. Many of you guys, I'm sure, have met him for the ones that have been to our Orange County events, our LA events, and San Diego events. Richard's an awesome guy, very, very detailed, very knowledgeable, knows the market inside and out. He's been working in real estate for quite some time. Originally got started with KB Homes in new construction, and has worked his way onto the investment side and working with us. So without any further ado, I'll pass it over to Richard.
Thanks, David. How are you all doing tonight? I'm pleased to talk to you all about Houston and some of the exciting investment opportunities that we have in the market. So that's just a map of Houston right there on this slide, and we'll get going on to the next one. My name is Richard Seller. I have a background in new home construction. I sold for 4 years with KB Homes, selling new homes in 7 neighborhoods around the Houston area. I personally own a couple investment properties in the Houston market. I've worked with a lot of investors even prior to working with Marshall Reddick. I worked with local investors and several investors from Austin who buy in the Houston market that I work with too. And customer service has always been my highest priority. Even when I was selling new homes for a builder, I like to do everything ethically and on the up and up, and I really want to feel I've built a strong relationship with my customer and serve their needs, and everyone should have a great experience, both myself and the customer. So why Houston? And I've stolen Bill Clinton's 1992 campaign slogan here, "It's the economy, stupid." And I put the tagline, "It's not just about oil," because it really isn't. There's a lot of aspects to the Houston economy that are outside of the oil industry, and we're into that, especially with the slump in the price of oil and how that is and isn't affecting Houston. So David's got a quick poll for everybody. David?
Hey, thanks, Richard. And so everybody, where you're going to see up here on your screen, we're going to be doing a poll. And so we're going to launch the poll here now. The first poll as we go through, it's how many investment properties do you currently own? So go ahead and answer there. You can put none yet, just getting started, 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 9, or 10 plus properties. So I'm going to give you guys about 10 seconds to go through and answer that for us, and then we'll go ahead and share with you guys to see how many properties our investors own. All right, I'll give you guys a few more seconds here just to wrap it up. Okay, awesome. So we got a wide variety here, but it's awesome to see almost 10% of you guys own over 10 plus properties. That's really, really cool. And for the 46% who are just getting started, we look forward to helping you guys with getting into your first property and walking you through the first steps of due diligence all the way to closing on the first one and even after that. So back to you, Richard.
Okay, so why Houston? Well, Houston's the 4th largest city in America. We've been growing very rapidly over the last decade, and where they're projecting by the middle of the next decade, we may actually be passing Chicago and become the 3rd largest city in the U.S. So very fast-growing city, fastest-growing large city in the nation according to Forbes. Now that was 2014. They haven't done the 2015 numbers yet, so we're still waiting to see how that's going to shake out. We have been growing, but the rate has slowed a little bit. Population of 6,490,180 in the metro area. Again, that's 2014, so we're over 6.5 million now easily. If the metropolitan area was an independent country, it would be the 27th largest economy in the world. So that's larger than all but 26 countries. vibrant, diverse, and rapidly growing economy. We've got a high rental demand and a magnet for business relocations. So the business climate, second only to New York City in the number of Fortune 500 company headquarters within the city. And that's, a lot of people don't realize that, and even when I found that statistic, I was surprised. And that's 26 in 2014. I believe that number has stayed the same in 2015. And those companies are expanding. ExxonMobil, one of the biggest things that's happened in Houston in the last year is ExxonMobil actually completed their new corporate headquarters complex, which is in Spring, Texas, which is about 20 miles north of downtown. Massive complex that they've built. It's you know, a sort of a suburban office park, and there's going to be 10,000 people there when it's fully occupied, and I believe they're close to being fully occupied now. They've been moving people all through the last year or so to that location, and half of those people are coming outside the Houston area. So it's something like 2,500 were being relocated from the Virginia area, some from Ohio, some from Dallas, but over half of the 10,000 are coming from outside of Houston. That's our big corporate relocation, but there are plenty of other ones going on too. Half of Texas's Fortune 500 companies, 52 in Texas, 26 are in Houston. One of the great things about Houston is very low taxes, very low regulations. It's very easy to start a business with very little red tape. One of the coolest statistics or kind of fun facts that I had ever come across with Houston is that you can open a business, a new business, in a day in Houston. So you would just go down to the city government and file the paperwork, and you can be up and running the next day. In a lot of cities across America, it can take several hundred days to file a business application and get business up and running. That was actually, I got that from, if any of y'all, or I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Drew Carey, the comedian. He did a little documentary on Cleveland with Reason TV, and it's called Reason Saves Cleveland. You can look it up on YouTube. Cool documentary, and it contrasts what went wrong in Cleveland to what other cities are doing right. And one of the cities they mainly focus on is Houston, and that's one of the things that they talked about. So if you want to kind of if you want to look at that documentary, I recommend it, because it's an excellent way as an investor that you can kind of understand what you want to look for in a city in terms of one that you feel will do well over the next several decades. Because of good governance and a good business environment, and that will help you invest. One of the other great things about Houston is it's home to the Texas Medical Center. Everyone knows about oil in Houston. It's the energy capital of the world. That's pretty self-explanatory. What a lot of people outside of the state of Texas don't realize is that Houston has the largest agglomeration of medical research hospitals in the world, located in the Texas Medical Center, which is just south of downtown, and we're going to get into that. But that's a huge driver of growth. About half of our job growth last year, I was just looking at the numbers, came from the medical industry. So oil has slowed down, but the medical industry is still going strong, so we're still seeing the job growth because of industries like medical. The Houston Ship Channel and the Port of Houston is also a huge job driver and growth driver. We're going to get into that. Home to NASA. Everyone knows about NASA. Small employment component, NASA proper, but there's a lot of aerospace industry that's located in Houston because of NASA that has some jobs associated with it and attached to it. And then all of it leads to a growing need for housing in the Houston metropolis. So this is Forbes of 2015. Now we put this presentation originally together in the summer of 2015. So some of this data has changed. I was looking for some new numbers, but it looks like the full 2015 numbers aren't out yet. But this was the projection for 2015 as of, I think it was early summer of 2015. Population growth rate was 1.81% in 2014. Projected 2015 was 1.74%. We're not sure how that came in yet. Job growth rate 4.5%. Unemployment, this was at the beginning of 2015, excuse me. The beginning of 2015, it was 4.8%. It rapidly fell to 3.7 if you look there on the right by mid-2015. It's come back up a little bit in the winter. We're back above 4 now, but we're still below the national average. And then the 2014 metropolitan GDP growth was 3.52%. Median pay is $71,900. This was a believe this was a 2015, beginning of 2015 rank. No, this was 2014. This was a 2014 for Houston, put out by the national, or the it was put out by the Houston Business Journal, but it's the National Business Journal survey. So every city has a business journal, and Houston was ranked number 5 for small business, and they go over on the right-hand side there why they ranked it that way. So this is the Texas Medical Center. If you look at the picture, it's almost like its own little downtown area. Downtown Houston is up the top of the picture off in the distance, but this is just south of downtown. Lots of multi-story office buildings. There are 49 world-class member institutions that are part of the Texas Medical Center. Most of those are hospitals and research hospitals. If you ever get cancer, I recommend coming to Houston. Houston has probably the world's best cancer treatment centers. You have several big hospitals. MD Anderson, Memorial Hermann have their main research centers for cancer in the Texas Medical Center. It's also home to the Baylor College of Medicine. It's home to UT, University of Texas Medical Center, or Medical University, and several others. So the Houston region employs more than 222,000 life science and healthcare professionals. Cancer Prevention and Research Institute of Texas Oversight Committee will award an estimated $300 million in grants each year over the next 10 years for cancer research. So that's a big part of this. And you can see it's quite an impressive complex of buildings. The Port of Houston, in 2014, and we'll see when the 2015 numbers come out what that shaped up to be, but in 2014, it was the #1 ranked U.S. port in foreign tonnage, so that's exports. So basically, more exports left Houston than any other port in the country. It was ranked #2 in terms of total foreign cargo value, so that's the value of those exports. And just about 175,000 jobs come from the Port of Houston, and a lot of the port is importing and exporting oil and oil field equipment, but obviously there's a huge medical component there and an agricultural component from all the agriculture in the center of the country. So that's the main information about the Port of Houston. Another interesting thing about the Port of Houston that I was reading a few months ago, the Panama Canal is being expanded at the current time. I think it's supposed to finish the expansion later this year. And the article that I was reading was saying that this expansion was going to allow larger ships from the Pacific into the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. And so it was going to take some of the traffic that went out of LA and San Francisco through Houston instead. So they were projecting that the Port of Houston was going to grow even larger in the coming years because of that expansion. This is Houston's historical and projected population. Okay, so this is a kind of an old graphic. I've tried to find a newer one, but couldn't find one. It goes to 2011, and then these are 3 forecasts. Two of them are the Texas State Data Center, which is a Texas government agency that makes projections, and they have 2 scenarios. One of them is the Institute for Regional Forecasting, which is a national association. So they made 3 projections. You can see that they're projecting us by 2020 to be, all 3 are projecting over 7 million. And they're pretty close. If you look at 2016, we're kind of just over 6.5. So they're on track. This is percentage of jobs recovered through December of 2014. So this is jobs that were lost during the recession of 2008, 2009. What percentage of them have come back? So at the low end, you can see that of all the jobs that Detroit lost between 2008 and 2009, they've only recovered 34% of them through the end of 2014. And then we're at the top by a long way. We basically have recovered almost four times as many jobs as we lost during the downturn. Dallas would be second, Boston and D.C., then San Fran, New York, and then downward. But obviously you want to be investing in cities where there's job growth. This is the historical appreciation trend for Houston. One of the nice things about Houston and really Texas in general is we don't have the wild swings that you tend to see in some of the other markets. During the 2008 and 9 downturn, we only went down about 1 or 2% in terms of what property values fell. You can see over on the left-hand side what they went down by. And they stayed flat for a couple years or a few years, and then they've started to appreciate again. But we never get these 20+% upswings or 20+% downswings. It always stays pretty constant, and there's reasons for that, but a lot of it is just that it's a pretty easy market to develop, and there's lack of red tape for builders. So you never see these massive run-ups in house prices, which is good as an investor because you end up with that stability. You're not having the peaks and valleys that you get in certain other markets. So that's a nice thing to keep in mind. Is even if we do have another housing downturn in a few years, your property values in Houston will probably stay more or less flat. You won't see those massive downturns. So this is just a slide that Marshall Reddick's put together. They've put this great data packet together for investors that gives you all sorts of information about Houston and the economy, and it's just a great thing to go and get from the website. You can get it at marshallreddick.com/Houston, and this will kind of reiterate a lot of what I'm talking about. So there's another poll, so it's up to David now to do the poll.
All right, thanks, Richard. Appreciate that. Everybody, you can put down your food, hold on to your vino right now. We're getting ready for the next poll. As you can see here, what do you guys like the most about Houston, Texas? Is it the economic growth there? Is it the high rental demand? Is it the opportunity for cash flow? Is it the appreciation potential, or all of the above? So I'll give you guys about 10 seconds to go through there and answer which ones you like, and then we'll share the poll once you're done. All right, guys, just as you're wrapping up here, I mean, as Richard has gone over, each one of these areas Houston does really well in, so there's really no wrong answer for you guys to answer on this, but we're going to go ahead and share the results. So it looks like about 70% of you picked all of the above, which is great, and about 11% like the economic growth there. So really excited to see those numbers, and I agree with you guys all that there's a lot of benefits, and Houston does cover each one of these. So back to you, Richard.
Okay, so now I'm going to go over some of the properties that we've selected to show y'all. I spend a lot of time going through the MLS and also some other sources and finding properties that I'm trying to maximize cash flow while finding properties in areas where I think that the market is going to appreciate better than the average for Houston. So that's my goal, and it takes obviously it takes a lot of time to find these properties, and there's a lot of there on the MLS, and I sort through it, and these are the kind of the best of the bunch that I'm able to get for y'all. So the first one that I'm going to go over, we're going to go over 3 single families and then a couple multi-families. The first that I'm going to go over, this one I really like. This is a great property. This one's over 3,000 square feet, and they just reduced it. It was originally listed at $209, and it's been on the market now about a little over 30 days, and they dropped it. Originally, they dropped it like $5,000, and then just yesterday they dropped it another 10, which tells me the seller is, I guess they're needing to move. Usually when you take such a big price cut, it means you're wanting to get out of it, and maybe they're moving, or who knows, but it bodes well if you're the buyer because you're able to maybe negotiate them even further, and I think we might be able to get a little more off of this. So list price is $195, and anytime you can get a property for a 3,000 square foot property for under $200,000, you're winning. And this is in a good area. This is actually very close to my office. It's in the Atascocita area in Houston, which is a suburb in the northeastern part of the metropolitan area. It's known for good schools. It is close to Lake Houston, which is our main reservoir. It's also a great recreational lake. It's only about a 10-minute drive from the airport, and there's plenty of business in the area. You're about 10 minutes away from Halliburton's headquarters. FMC Technology is another big oil company in Houston. They are building their new corporate headquarters within, again, about a 10-minute drive of this property. And the airport, there's a lot of industry centered around the airport. So plenty of employment in the area, which is good, good schools, and a really good price for this size property. So this goes over the financials over on the right-hand side. We're projecting a $2,000 a month rent, and that's based upon comparables from the last year of that size in this neighborhood and some of the neighboring neighborhoods. The mortgage payment is $741. It goes through taxes, insurance, management fee. We'll go over how the management works when I get to the management company, but they have a couple options, but this one we're doing the 8% of rent, and then the HOA fee. Monthly expenses on this would be about $1,500 a month, including the mortgage. So that gives you a positive cash flow after your expenses of $467. Now, Marshall Reddick is very conservative. And this is one reason that these are some of the best properties, because a lot of rental properties, if you were to just take a run-of-the-mill investment property, they would not factor in these 8% estimated maintenance and 8% estimated vacancy. And thus, your positive cash flow would be this top line. But what Marshall Reddick does is they go a step further. They take out an estimate for maintenance and an estimate for vacancy, and then an estimate for a leasing fee every 18 months. And so once you subtract those conservative estimates out, they're basically saying we feel comfortable saying you could pocket $81 a month in positive cash flow, and they're saying put the other money in basically on the side in case you have a maintenance issue, in case you have a period of vacancy and have to release the property. But one good thing about Houston is our vacancy rates are quite a bit below the national average, and properties do tend to rent fairly quickly. So these are some interior photos. You can see it's got like a 2-story entry, tile floors throughout the downstairs, which is definitely a positive on a investment property. So you're not going to have to replace carpets if you have to change tenants and that sort of thing. And so that's that one. I really like that property. This next one is an older property. This one was built, I believe, in the early 80s, 1982. This is actually fairly near to the last property. It's also in the Atascocita area. And this house has been renovated. It's about 1,600 square feet. The price is only $143,000. So we're projecting a rent, again, based upon the comparables from the last year of $1,500. And then with all the expenses, you're looking at a monthly income of about $430. Now, Marshall Reddick, the way that they classify properties, this one is falling into, I believe it's listed as a C class. Yes, a C class property. Is right on the line between B and C, technically based upon the price versus the metropolitan area price. It's a C. I feel like this neighborhood's really a B-class neighborhood, so I feel like these are excessively conservative estimates. But they're saying hold 13 because it's C-class. Oops, excuse me. Because it's C-class, they're saying hold 13% of the rent each month for maintenance, 13% for vacancy, and then the leasing fee. So they're saying hold all of that. And then with those conservative estimates, we're saying we're conservatively projecting a negative 9%, or not, sorry, not 9%, no, negative $9 a month cash flow. But again, that's not actual negative. That's just with these assumptions. So really, you'll be seeing a positive 430, if that makes sense. And then this, I didn't go over this on the last one. This is when you factor in appreciation also. It gives you a 15-year projected profit and a 15-year annual return on investment of about 12%. And so that's factoring how much cash you're putting into the property, which is this top part of investment capital needed, 43,619, and then with the annual appreciation and the cash flow, we're looking at about 12% annually positive on top of that. Basically, you'll gain 12% of that 43,000 every year is the projection. So these are interior photos. You see it's very clean, tile floors in the kitchen. It's got new carpets. Nice looking property. This is one I just found yesterday. This just went on the market. It's only been on the market, I think, 4 or 5 days, and it's one I'm actually pretty excited about. This one's $159. It's just under 1,000 square feet, so great price per square, 2,000 foot on that. It was built in 2004, so it's reasonably new. And this one's actually in a gated neighborhood, which is really nice. It's right on the Sam Houston Tollway, which is our beltway. So Houston has 3 loops. We have the inner loop, which is 610. We have Beltway 8, which is our kind of our middle loop, and then they're building our outer loop right now, which is Texas 99. So Beltway 8 right now, it's about 12, 13 miles around downtown. It goes past the airport. It's a road. It's a major highway with a lot of businesses located all the way around, and a great transportation route. It's one of the better roads in Houston to drive during rush hour. And so all of these things are great for renters. I find that a lot of renters like easy access to transportation routes, quick access to their jobs, and this property, because the neighborhood is right, literally right on the beltway, it's very, very convenient. And so you're looking at a rent. I'm projecting a rent of $1,595, and with all the expenses, we're looking at a monthly income of about $387. It's listed as a B-class property based on the price, so we're saying hold back 10% of the rent, so that's about $160 a month, and then the leasing fee also. So with those, with holding that money on one side in an account, basically positive monthly cash flow of $15 after those expenses. But if you were to just put all of that in one account, you'd be looking at $387 every month. And then with the appreciation, you're looking at about 14% return on income. And then these are the pictures. Now this one I am projecting about $8,000 in maintenance to get it rent ready, and that's factored into the cash flow numbers. The reason for that is the listing said, the agent remarks in the listing says that there's a big dog and they're putting it in the yard and don't go in the backyard when you're showing it. So whenever I see that, I always think big dog, red flag. There's probably going to be, you know, carpet. Maybe you're going to need to replace the carpet. Maybe There might be some trim or drywall that needs patching or painting. So I put $8,000 in there. That would also include ripping up the carpet downstairs, putting in either like a wood or a tile floor, and then new carpet upstairs, and repainting. And so just to give it a really fresh look, and really increase the rentability of the house. But it may not need that. I haven't been in the property. I just found it yesterday. So I always try and be conservative. So multifamily properties. So this one, now this property is my favorite, and it's my favorite because you'll see the crazy cash flow numbers. It's a unique property. It's not for somebody, I wouldn't recommend it for somebody who's never owned an investment property before, but basically what it is, this is in Baytown, Texas. Now Baytown is on the east side of Houston. It is right at the mouth of the ship channel, and it is one of the largest refining and petrochemical hubs in the country. One thing that's happening in Houston that I didn't really get into, we are seeing, obviously with the lower oil prices, we are seeing a contraction in the drilling industry. So you've got a lot of drillers and oil field service companies that are located in Houston. Those companies are all, well, I say all, 95% of them are located on the west side of town, in the on what's called the Energy Corridor, which is basically I-10 from downtown out to Katy, which is a western suburb. All along I-10, you've got oil company headquarters. Most of them are drillers, oil field services. Those are the companies that are struggling with the lower price of oil because obviously drilling has become less profitable. A large portion of the energy complex in Houston, however, is the other side of the industry. It's the refiners and the petrochemical companies. Now, refining and chemicals, oil is their input. It's not their output. They don't produce oil. They consume it. So when a refiner takes oil and turns it into jet fuel or gasoline or lubricant, they're buying oil. So that's a cost to them. So they're actually seeing their profits expand with lower oil prices. Same with the chemical companies that make paints and plastics and that sort of thing. Again, the price of plastic has not fallen significantly, but the price of their input cost has fallen. So they're actually expanding right now. They're doing very well, which is one of the reasons that with Houston you don't see, places like Nebraska where they're doing a lot of drilling, or not Nebraska, I'm sorry, North Dakota where they're doing a lot of drilling, West Texas where they're doing a lot of drilling. You're seeing major declines in GDP in those areas because the drilling has become less profitable. In Houston, yes, we do have drillers who are becoming less profitable, but we also have the other side of the business where they take the oil in and they process it, and they're seeing their profit margins expand right now, which is one reason that Houston's been resilient even through these low oil prices. So to get back to the property, Baytown is definitely a way. If you say, I want to invest in Houston, but I'm nervous that oil prices will go down further, which I would say I don't think they're going to go down much further, but who knows. But if you say that, I'm nervous about oil prices, well, then I would say invest in the east side of town, invest around the Port of Houston, invest in the Baytown area where you have the refiners and the chemical companies. So that's a nice way to play oil with this property. So basically the way that what this property is it's a duplex, but it's 8 bedrooms. So it's 2 different units with 4 bedrooms each. And each bedroom is rented individually and fully furnished. And it's fully rented. And the guy that set this property up, he's a real estate agent also. I spent a long time talking to him about the property. He said he'd be happy to talk to any investor that I send to him about the property so he can give them a really good idea of how it works and how the money's made and how tenants are replaced and that sort of thing. But basically what it is he purchased the property a few years ago as a foreclosure. He completely redid it, and what he's done is he's turned it into a fully furnished 1-room rental, or 8 fully furnished 1-room rentals. And the 7 of the 8 tenants are refinery workers, and a lot of people come to Houston to work in these refineries. They're very messy jobs. The health, they're not the best on your health. I had a friend who did it for a few years, and he only did it for a few years because he was working 60 to 80-hour weeks, and didn't want to do it much longer than that, but he was making over $150,000 a year, and he only had a high school diploma. So these are jobs that attract young, usually young single males who are looking to do it for a few years, make a lot of money, and maybe they're saving to go to college or saving for something else, but they tend to be a short-term job for a couple of years to do these refinery jobs. And so what they do is a lot of them are coming from other areas, and they'll move to Houston. They'll need a place to live, but they know that they're not staying for more than a few years. So what they're doing is they're renting these units. They're fully furnished. They've got, you know, cable and internet provided. And what he does is when one of them leaves, they refer to him several people who they know are moving to the Houston area to come work at the refinery. So basically the current tenants help him find the new tenants. And as he is a realtor, he also has a property management business. So he said that he would manage the property if the person who purchased it wanted him to, which I think would be great to help with the transition. And so one of the reasons I really love this property is the cash flow numbers. So let's go through that. The list price is $260,000. You're looking probably with down payment. I put a repair cost on there. He's rehabbed the interior. I drove past it. Obviously, it's fully rented, so I couldn't go in. I feel like it probably needs, the exterior probably needs a paint job in the next couple years. And as I was telling somebody who was interested in the property that I already spoke to about it, the current driveway, there's parking along the street for the tenants, and then there's a driveway. Current driveway is like a dirt driveway. I really felt like to increase the value of the property and maybe, you know, bring up the rents a little bit, you could put in a real concrete driveway and maybe some parking in the front. And so that's why I projected $10,000. I don't know that you would necessarily need that, but that's just what I'm projecting. So with that, you're looking at about $95,000 in total capital needed. The rent on this property from all 8 units is $5,380. So you're buying a $260,000 property that's fully rented, and they're all on year leases, and it's $5,380 is what it brings in. So we factored in mortgage payments, the taxes monthly, the insurance monthly. Taxes I get those from the appraisal district, and the insurance, I got that from him. That's what he's currently paying. The management fee, now what he would do, he said that with the way he would manage it, and I kind of liked it. He said he wouldn't charge a leasing fee to lease each unit. So you have 8 different units, so leasing fees could add up. So he said what he wouldn't do, he wouldn't charge a leasing fee, but he would charge 15% of the rent monthly. So normally what you do on a single family is you have 8% and then there's a leasing fee. So he's charging a larger percentage monthly but no leasing fee. So you can play with the numbers and see if that works, but I put his management in there just so you could see what that would be. And then the utilities, this is the projection based upon summer utilities. So he gave me the numbers for water, the numbers for the cable and the internet. There's no gas, and then the numbers for the electric. Basically, the water and the cable and the internet are about $500 a month. In the summer, his electric bills are about $500. In the winter, he said they're about $200. So to be conservative, I always like to be conservative, I'm projecting the utilities at $1,000 a month, which will probably be your summer month, but it probably won't be that during the winter, but I just be easy, put it at $1,000. Landscaping, I'm projecting $50 a month for yard lawn service. And so your total monthly expenses are $3,150. Monthly income, $2,229 in your pocket after paying those expenses. And then even if this is a C-class property, Baytown is a C-class area, working class, you know, and so we're projecting 13% of the rent for maintenance, 13% of the rent for vacancy, even though right now it's fully rented. So that may be, again, very conservative. And then, of course, no leasing fee with the higher property management. So even after those deductions, you're still looking at a positive monthly cash flow, of $831. So that's really an excellent return. As I was telling some of the Marshall Reddit guys, I think that's the best property that I've found in the roughly year and a half that I've been working with Marshall Reddick. So great property. I would encourage anyone who's interested in it to give me a call, and I'd be happy to put you in touch with the guy who owns it currently. Oh, and then one more bonus on this. He said if somebody gives him a full price offer of $260,000, he would manage it for free for a year. So that would save you about $9,000 in management fees. So I think that would be an even bigger bonus. And these are the interior photos. It's fully furnished, television, bed. You've got a little living area in each room. Picture of the bathroom. It's a common bathroom. There's 3 bathrooms between the 8 bedrooms and 2 common kitchens. The next property, this one I really like also. The cash flow is not as good. This is right near the medical center. It's very close to downtown Houston. It's in an area, if you ever get a chance to come to Houston, I always like to show anyone that comes that's interested in Houston, if you want to come to Houston, I'd be happy to take you around, show you the different areas, kind of really give you a good idea of the Houston market. Houston is a city where it's very easy to redevelop. The city government stays out of your way. It's the only major city in the country with no zoning, which basically means that you do not need permission to tear old buildings down and build new buildings. So in a lot of the neighborhoods around downtown, you're seeing a lot of gentrification. There are areas of near downtown where 20 years ago, if you wouldn't have wanted to go there at night. I mean, it was, an area that's just totally run down and not nice. You go to that same area today, it's $500,000 townhomes, Mercedes parked along the streets, and it's just totally different. And the transition is happening all around downtown, especially as young professionals really want that urban living, and Houston has a lot to offer in regard to that. Kilgore is in an area which is very close to one of these areas that's been totally redone, and it's in an area that's in transition right now. So this is a property that is, I think, if it was maybe half a mile to the west, it would be double the price. So if you purchase this property, it's in an area that has a lot of upside potential in terms of appreciation, because the surroundings they're starting to build townhomes and knock down some of the older buildings and that sort of thing. So you're getting in on an area that's really up and coming. It is just across the highway from the Texas Medical Center. The other side of the highway is literally, it would be double the price. So it's really less than half a mile. It's just the other side of the highway. And the list price is $459. This is a 4-unit apartment building. And we're saying investment capital needed would be $149. This one's fully rehabbed. I don't expect there to be any repair costs. The total rent is $39.80. So it goes through all the expenses, and you're looking at a total monthly income of about $1,000 a month after those expenses. And then when this is a B class based upon the price per unit, so if you take out the maintenance and vacancy and the leasing fee, then you're looking at still a positive of about $77 a month. And then it shows you down at the bottom your projected return on investment. And then there's some interior photos. This one has been completely renovated. Granite countertops, wood floors, nice features. It's really ready for what's becoming of the area that it's in. It was built about 10 years ago. The backstory on the property, I spoke to the agent and I've done some research on it. It was originally built by a guy who basically lived in it with his family. Like, he had one unit, his sister had a unit, his brother had a unit, I think his parents had a unit, and the person who purchased it a few years ago, it was very basic inside, no carpet, no granite, nothing. He purchased it, he came in, he put all the nice flooring in, the counters, redid the whole property and started leasing it out. And I think it's really ready to become it's ready to raise the rents as the area keeps progressing and gentrifying and becoming a more wealthy area. So here's our third and final poll, and I'll turn it over to David.
Thanks, Richard. Everybody, here's our final poll for the night. And as we go through, do we just want to hear from you guys which one of the properties shown tonight was your favorite property? And if you aren't sure from taking your notes which property is which, they're actually in order from what we showed. So go ahead and choose which one you like, whether it was the one in Humboldt, Texas, single-family home, the one on Pines Place, the single-family home in Houston, the duplex in Baytown, or the fourplex on Kilgore. So I'll give you guys about 10 seconds to go through and decide which ones you guys like the best. All right, we're going to wrap it up here in just a second and give you guys the results. All right, the results from our poll are awesome. Everybody, every property got some interest. So as you can tell, these are all very good properties. Looks like our first property in Humboldt, Texas, a single-family home, got the most. And then next coming in is the Baytown duplex. So that's great to see. I'll turn it back over to you, Richard.
Okay, great. And moving along, so our preferred lender in Texas is Brett Gilliland with AmeriFirst Financial. I've done several deals now with AmeriFirst, and they do a great job. I would highly recommend using them. The closing process is so much quicker than with the typical run-of-the-mill lender. I mean, it's really quite astounding the positive experience that I've had on the deals that I've done with them. So if you are a Marshall Reddick investor, I would recommend using Marshall Reddick's preferred lender. They do a great job. They have competitive rates also. One of the reasons I think they're a lot faster than a normal bank is the in-house processing and underwriting. The number of banks that I talk to as a real estate agent, where I'm talking to a loan officer and he's telling me his processor's in a different building and his underwriter's in a different building, and none of them are on the same page, and you just wonder how they can close anything. And that's probably why it takes them 60 days to close a loan when AmeriFirst and Brett can do it in, I had one that they did in less than 30 in like 20 days, and I was astounded because that just never happens in my experience. And so they're all across the country, but they're, for our sake, they're in Texas, and they do an appraisal credit for Marshall Reddick clients. So normally with a lender, you would pay for the appraisal. It would be part of your closing costs, or some of them make you pay it up front. In their case, they're basically giving that to you for free. And they got private financing available. I don't know, David, do you want to go over that?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Richard. So guys, we have in-house private financing. For those of you maybe can't get approved for a conventional loan because they have really strict guidelines nowadays, or say you wanted to invest through your self-directed retirement account, whether it's a self-directed IRA or solo 401k, you can get a non-recourse loan through us here, or private financing. So no qualification guidelines, no credit score, or debt-to-income requirements, no minimum loan amount. 3 different loan options are available for you guys, as low as 7% interest rate, 15 and 30-year fixed interest rate loans, and all you need is the down payment, which makes it great. So if you are a little discouraged because you think you can't qualify for a conventional loan, no worries, we can definitely help you out through the process and get you connected with our private lender. So back to you, Richard.
Great, thanks, David. Okay, so one of the last slides. Okay, our property management. So I have two property managers that I normally refer. The one that I really prefer is BJR Properties, and the agent is Betty Riley. It's her company, and she actually manages my properties. I consider her a friend. She's very responsive, very thorough. When I chose her to manage my properties, I purchased mine when I was still a sales rep for KB Home, and so I wasn't yet a real estate agent at the time. And I had her act as my realtor because she's also a licensed realtor, and I've had her manage them since I purchased them. And the reason that I chose her, I'd actually worked with her when I was a sales rep, and she brought me customers. And she really is, in my opinion, the smartest agent, and one of the sharpest, I guess is the right word, the sharpest agent that I had the pleasure of doing business with when I was a sales rep at KB. And so I chose her when I went to purchase my investment property, and she manages too. So I used her, and I really felt I felt like since I started working with her as her customer, I felt she's done an amazing job. She always picks up the phone. I mean, you can always get a hold of her. And to me, and I'm the same way. I really pride myself in returning calls quickly. You know, I can't always answer the phone if I'm with another client, but I always make sure that I get back to you, because to me there's nothing more frustrating than waiting 2 days to hear back from somebody when you're trying to get a deal done. And so that is why I recommend her first and foremost. It's just how hands-on she is and how responsive, and especially if you're out of state, I think that's something that you really want in a property manager. So she does two fee structure options. The 6%, I'm going to go over the second one first, 6% monthly and 100% leasing fee. So in Texas, Texas is well, more, I'm going to talk about Houston. Let me rephrase that. Houston is a very realtor-driven market, even on the tenant side. So once you get over maybe $1,300 a month, really over $1,200 a month, I'd say about 90% of the people looking for homes, the tenants looking for homes, are working with realtors. So the way that you obviously pay a realtor is you give them a portion of 1 month's rent. And so the way it works is you hire a realtor to list your property. In this case, you'd be hiring Betty with BJR, and she would charge you a leasing fee. In Houston, typically the way it works is the listing broker charges 100% of 1 month's rent. They keep 50%, and then they offer 50% to the tenant's realtor as an incentive to show the property, represent the tenant, you know, do the paperwork, etc. What I have found is that if you're not offering 50% of 1 month's rent to tenants' realtors, they're not showing the property, because why would they show, you know, as bad as it sounds, at the end of the day, they're not doing this for free, they're working. Why would they show, you know, you've got 10 properties that fit your tenant's criteria, you're not going to drive them to all 10, you're going to narrow it down. So why would you show them a property where you're going to make half as much money, or $100, I see some up, and the reason that those sit on the market is because they do not incentivize the tenants' realtors properly. So the way that it works is typically, customarily in Houston, most property managers in Houston charge 8% a month and 100% leasing fee. AIM, who is the other property management that I recommend, they charge 6% monthly and 100% leasing. When I first approached Betty about working with Marshall Reddick, I said to her, I said, hey, you know, normally she charges 8% and 100%. That's her standard rate, is 8% and 100%. I said, hey, would you be willing to match AIM to work with Marshall Reddick? And she said, yes, she would match AIM and do the 6% monthly and 100% leasing. So that's where that came from. Now, the other option, Scott Pastel with Marshall Reddick had asked me, he said, hey, a lot of our investors are in other markets, they're used to having lower leasing fees. Could we find a way to work something with BJR Properties to where we can get a lower leasing fee? So Betty said, hey, I'll do 8% monthly, which is her normal rate, and I'll do a 60% leasing fee instead. And she would still give 50% of 1 month's rent to the buyer's agent. So basically, she's leasing it for 10% of 1 month's rent, and that's what she's making, which is next to nothing. I mean, that just covers her insurance fees that she has to pay on every transaction that she does, basically. So those are the fee structure that she offers. I think we figured out that at 2 years is about the break-even point. So if you have a tenant in the property for 2 years before you have to release it, that's about break-even. So if the tenant stays in the property 3 years, then you're losing money if you go with the 8% and 60% leasing. You're basically backloading your expenses. If the tenant stays in the property for a year, then you're actually winning with the lower leasing fee and the 8% monthly. So you just kind of have to play with the numbers and decide what's best for you. But it's nice that she has that flexibility, and whichever you prefer, whether you want to front load or back load your property management expenses, she's willing to do that for Marshall Reddick. And so this just goes over I guess the power team in Houston. Obviously, it starts with Marshall Reddick's advisors. It starts with David. Contact him if you have any questions about any of this. I provide the properties, and once David talks to y'all and you've expressed interest in Houston, he'll put you in touch with me, and then obviously we'll talk about your financing with AmeriFirst. And then once you've closed on you'll start talking to Betty before you close, but once you purchase the property, and then especially once you close on the property, that's where Betty steps in, and you'll have a long-term relationship with her over the years as you hold the property and get the cash flow from it. So what to do next? Contact David Kling, and he will go over any questions that you have, and he can put you in touch with me, and we can go from there. And with that, it's been a pleasure talking to y'all. I love talking about my home city of Houston and all the awesome opportunities for investments that there are in this great city. And I really hope I'll get to meet some of y'all, and you'll come visit us here in Houston. And hopefully I'll talk to y'all soon, but I'll turn it over to David. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. And as Richard said, guys, all my contact info is right there. Call me, email me. I'm looking forward to talking with each and every one of you about the Houston market and which properties will make the most sense for you and your investment criteria. For the time now, go ahead and type in a couple questions. I'm going to give you guys a few seconds here to go through. On the right side on the panel, you'll see the questions box. You guys can type in right there, and then we're going to go through about 3 questions here at the end. And we already have one that just came in. So Kevin writes, do we have to buy one of these properties in Houston that was presented on the PowerPoint tonight? And Kevin, no you don't. Richard is a buyer's agent out in the Houston market. He can help you purchase any property that you'd like out there. So whether it's one of the awesome investments that you've seen on here tonight, or another property that may be of interest to you that you found yourself, we'd be happy to look into it for you and help.
Let me jump in there for a second, David. Yeah, there's also other properties up on the website. We only highlighted some of them, and on top of that, at the end of the day, it's your decision, your money, your investment. All I'm here to do is help you do it. So if you find something that you want me to run the numbers on, I'd be happy to plug the numbers in and give you a cash flow analysis. I've worked with people before that either they're from Houston or they have family in Houston, and there was a particular area they were interested in. So I'm quite happy to be flexible and think outside the box and run it whichever direction you want me to. So that's perfectly acceptable, perfectly fine.
Thanks a lot, Richard. And just one thing I wanted to add as well for our investors out there. If you guys have any questions and aren't sure about which market or anything like that, definitely, like I said, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help mentor you guys through the process and really figure out what's the right type of property for you. So the second question that we have in here are the prices negotiable? and absolutely they are. We can go in, we can work with Richard to help see what would be the best price for us to go into and put in a solid offer on. And then Richard, was there anything you wanted to touch on that?
Yeah, actually, yes, they are negotiable. One of the nice things with what's happened with oil is the market hasn't really, it's not like it's gone down, but what's happened is you're not seeing the bidding wars that we saw a couple years ago that I think you're seeing in other parts of the country too. That's kind of stopped. And so I think that it is a little easier to get an offer in right now, which is maybe a good thing. If oil prices jump back up, which a lot of people are saying they will in the next couple of years, then yeah, we may go back to a more seller-friendly market. But right now, I think as a buyer, it's a good time. You're able to negotiate a little bit and get some money off. It does depend on the property. It does depend on the area. It especially depends upon the length of days on the market and obviously how motivated the seller is. Typically on the multifamilies, you'll see a lot less motivation from the sellers if they're already rented. I mean, they're getting cash flow already. They're quite happy to sit on the property. A lot of times the investors with the multifamilies, they're happy to sit on them and collect the money, but if they can get the price they want, maybe they have another investment idea that they want, especially if there's someone that likes to rehab properties. So I think on the multifamily, you'll see a lot less negotiable or a lot less favorable negotiating position. But certainly on the single family, if you're buying from an owner-occupant who's moving or, maybe they're building a bigger house and they have to be out by, they have to sell their house at a certain time. Yeah, I mean, that's when you see the good deals. And so, yeah, there's definitely wiggle room in those prices.
Thanks, Richard. And then the last question that we're going to have time for here is how long does it take typically to rent a property out in the Houston market? And I'll let you take that one, Richard.
Yeah, a lot of it depends on time of year, actually. Like the worst time of year to rent a property is December and January. It really is. That being said, we've closed quite a few with Marshall Reddick in the last couple months, and I think the longest I've seen on the market is maybe 30 days, maybe 35 days, something like that. So typically it's under 30 days, but again, it depends on the price point and the specifics of the property. Typically the lower rent properties, the C-class, the cheaper properties, they tend to rent quicker. You may not get as big a return, but they'll rent quicker. So it's something you have to kind of factor in about yourself. But I would say on average probably about 30 days. But certain properties would rent significantly quicker.
Thanks, Richard. Well, guys, I know that we still have a lot more questions coming in. I suggest you take down my email address there and shoot me over those questions. We can continue talking about that and go through those on a one-on-one basis. But I appreciate all of you guys jumping on the webinar tonight. Richard, we appreciate you jumping on here. I know it's late out in Houston now, almost time for bedtime. So good night, all you Marshall Reddick investors. Looking forward to speaking with each and every one of you throughout the week this week. Bye.